Welcome back to State of the FBS. I'm Micah, and today we're going to be going through game picks for Week 6 coming up this weekend. A lot of good ones. It's a very exciting slate. Sorry for no videos last week. I was in College Station working on the Auburn-Texas A&M game, which that was certainly one of the games of all time. But now we're back. We got time. It's time for Week 6 picks, and we're going to get right into it with Miami at Florida State, number 3 Miami, number 18 FSU, and I am very excited for this one. I think college football is better when this rivalry is at its peak. These two teams have both been playing good football so far. I know FSU had the Virginia loss, but can't win them all, I guess. Still, I like the way these two teams have played so far. For FSU, it's really about can they get the run game going. They're second in the country in rushing offense so far this season. That's how they beat Alabama. They played more physically than the Crimson Tide at home. They have the same advantage this week at home. At night, I think you're really going to need to lean on the crowd there in Doak Campbell Stadium for Miami. Let your rush defense keep doing what it has been doing. Against Miami this season, 21% of run plays have either gone for no gain or loss of yardage. So just outrageous stuff from the Miami rushing defense. This defensive line has been going crazy. Against the pass, Ruben Bain has been a monster for the Hurricanes. Then for FSU, you gave up 200 yards on the ground to Virginia last week, and now Miami comes in with Mark Fletcher, a lot of running back talent on this Miami team. I think if you get gashed and then you can't establish the run versus Miami, it's going to be a long day for FSU. I don't know how confident I am that FSU can win this game by having to throw the ball, and I think Miami is going to be able to keep them bottled up in the run game. I think Miami will be able to run the ball on this FSU front. So because of that, I am going to take the Hurricanes in this one. Next up, it's Vanderbilt at Alabama. College game day, going to be in Tuscaloosa for number 16 Vandy and number 10 Alabama. And let's get all the Auburn bias stuff out of the way first. I know you guys see the Auburn hat. I'm an Auburn student, and this game was difficult to pick for me. I really like both of these teams. I think Ty Simpson so far has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He looks like a very talented field general. I respect the fact that he stayed there, developed. Then you have Vandy on the other side that they've just been killing everyone that they've played. I know it hasn't been the stiffest competition, but still, you can only beat who's put in front of you, and Vanderbilt has absolutely done that so far this season. What stands out to me in this matchup is Alabama is vulnerable on the ground so far this year. They're 90th in rushing defense, and Vanderbilt is number 14 in the country in total offense and number 18 in rushing offense. So this is a very talented Vanderbilt team at moving the ball on the ground. Diego Pavia, Cedric Alexander can both be weapons in the running game. And that's what hurt Alabama last year in Nashville. They couldn't contain Pavia. They couldn't keep him wrapped up in the pocket. And Vandy was able to really capitalize, keep time of possession, keep the ball out of Alabama's hands. I think if Vanderbilt wants to win this game again, they need to do the same thing this year. As for Alabama, throw the ball. Your passing offense is second in the country so far this season. You haven't been great in the run game. It hasn't really mattered because you scheme runs in different ways. You have the short passes, swing screens, stuff like that. It's kind of their version of the run game so far this year, and they've been highly effective at it. I mean, they even did it with Caden Proctor against Georgia. So this offense has been absolutely humming so far this year, and they're also number one in turnover margin. I think that is huge for the Crimson Tide. You cannot make mistakes against this Vanderbilt team because they're going to hold on to the ball for a while. It's going to be a while before you can get it back. What also stands out to me, Vanderbilt 55th in pass defense, and they have not played a team better than 49th in passing offense in the country, and that was Utah State when they played Utah State. They haven't really played any team that can throw the ball consistently. So what are they going to do versus Alabama? I'm not totally sure. I think that this goes one of two ways. Either it's high scoring, it's sped up, Alabama can throw the ball, they win that way, or Vanderbilt's able to control the clock. It's a more run-centered game, and Vanderbilt can barely keep ahead of Alabama that way. I am going to go with Vanderbilt just because I really like Clark Lee and this coaching staff. I think DeBoer is also a good coach, especially on game days. But for Vandy, they aren't making mistakes this year. They're playing very sound football. They're 5-0, and I'm going to keep going with them until they lose. So Vandy over Alabama, this one is almost a coin flip for me coming into this week. I believe Alabama by 10.5 is favored in this one, but still, give me Vanderbilt to pull the upset on the road. I think it's going to be an incredible game. I'm considering buying a last-second ticket and going into Tuscaloosa, but we'll see whether or not that happens. But Commodores for me in this one. Staying in the SEC with Mississippi State, going to College Station to take on number 6 Texas A&M. Mississippi State only with one loss on the year to Tennessee in overtime at home in a game that they gave up 2 defensive touchdowns to the Volunteers. This is a talented Mississippi State team. They're very good at explosive pass rate. They're very high in the country in that. Blake Shapen's been playing great. Fluff Bothwell is an outstanding running back. He has really had his way with any defense that they've played against. And if you're Texas A&M, you need to commit to stopping the run first, because that's what Mississippi State wants to do, is run the ball with Bothwell. Then if you can do that, try to make them one-dimensional. Try to get pressure onto Blake Shapen. The offensive line for Mississippi State has struggled this year. They're giving up a lot of sacks. Texas A&M has gotten a lot of sacks, although, to be fair, if you play Auburn at some point this year, you're probably going to be near the top of the sack leaderboard. But regardless, A&M has been good at getting home to the quarterback. Cassius Howell, Torian York are both very good players at doing so for the Aggies. And I think that, combined with the home environment at Kyle Field, they're going to be able to get this one. I think that even despite Mississippi State's top 35 defense, A&M at home is just a little too much. We've seen they can win in multiple ways. The rock fight versus Auburn, the shootouts they've won versus teams like Notre Dame. So give me the Aggies to improve to 5-0 against Mississippi State, who I still think is a very good team at this point in the year. Moving on to the Big 12, it's number 14, Iowa State, traveling up to Cincinnati to take on the Bearcats. And I think this is an underrated game. I'm taking Iowa State here, but it's not by much. I love Brendan Sorsby. I think he's a very talented quarterback. Cincinnati is about one play from being undefeated at this point. That one interception at the end of the Nebraska game. Cyrus Allen is finally really starting to connect with Sorsby as 11 for 128, 2 touchdowns last week against Kansas. So this offense, with a lot of the new receiver talent, I think is finally starting to gel a bit more for the Bearcats. This defense plays well. Iowa State is missing some corners going into this one, so I think that leaves them vulnerable through the air. However, I trust Rocco Becht. I trust the Iowa State rushing attack, and most importantly, I trust the Iowa State front seven. I think they're going to be able to get to Sorsby. Cincinnati has struggled to protect him a little bit so far this year, so I think if Iowa State can get home, try to silence the crowd and nip it earlier, because they're going to be rowdy. Cincinnati is really trying to make this a statement game for this program. They don't really have a ton of huge Big 12 wins so far in their time in the conference. This would be a big one to knock off number 14 undefeated Iowa State. I think they come up just short, but I think they're in it the entire time. Regardless, give me the Cyclones. And I think a big part of that, too, is the Cincinnati pass defense. Gave up 440 to Jalen Daniels in Kansas last week. So if you let Rocco Becht have that kind of time and space, he will also make you pay. So Iowa State gets the win in Cincinnati this weekend. Then number 24, Virginia at Louisville. Louisville 4-0, Virginia 4-1, coming off the win over Florida State. And this is a game, again, that I think is going to be really close, really fun. Virginia's number 12 in rushing offense this season, and they're 5th in total offense. This is a team that's been elite at moving the ball so far this year. And listen to these stats for some of their ball carriers. Jamari Taylor, 397 yards, 5.3 per carry, 7 touchdowns. Harrison Whaley, 229, 7.6 per carry and 4 touchdowns. Xavier Brown, 206, 4.9 per carry, touchdown. Noah Vaughn, 170 yards, 7.7 per carry. And then you look at Chandler Morris, who has another 169 rush yards, 4 touchdowns, 1279 through the air, 10 touchdowns, 4 picks. This is a team that can move it multiple ways. And this Louisville team, I liked them coming into the year. I think they're very talented. Isaac Brown's a great player. Miller Moss is up and down, but when he's on, I think he's a very solid player. And both of these teams turn the ball over a lot. Virginia's lost 5 this year. Louisville's lost 6. That's both around 75th in the country. And I just think this comes down to who makes less mistakes. And it's at Louisville. Louisville has the home crowd. I like this Virginia rushing offense. I don't know that Louisville's going to be able to keep them bottled up the entire time. So give me Virginia, but I think it's very close in this one. And the Hoos get a victory over Louisville. Next up, back to the SEC. Number 9, Texas at Florida. These are two offenses that just love guzzling paint. It's brutal to watch. And then you combine that with two defenses that I think are both top 5 in the country. Recipe for a disaster of a game. It's going to be a rock fight. First to 3 wins. It's going to be a rough game to watch, although I would say it'll probably still be entertaining. I think this Texas team is the best defense in the country, led by Anthony Hill Jr. and Colin Simmons. Florida also extremely talented. However, they're missing a lot of their defensive line talent right now. Caleb Banks, Jordan Mbachu still out for the Gators this Saturday. So I think because of that, Texas is able to get the run game going against the Gators. They gash them. You saw what Miami did against Florida. That's how they got that offense moving. Run the ball against the Gators. The Swamp is really going to have to help Florida out if they want a chance in this one. But I think Texas's rushing attack is just too much. And then I have no faith in this Florida offense to do absolutely anything. Florida this season is 1 of 19 on third downs of 9+ this year, and it's that Billy Napier surrender-oriented play calling. You don't move the ball at all once you get behind the chains, and it seems like you're always behind the chains with this Florida team. So even though these are two offenses that both can't do anything, they're outside the top 100 on third down. I think the fact that Texas will probably be able to run the ball, and then they themselves have a top 3 rushing defense to try to neutralize Jaden Ball's 5.9 per carry. Give me the Longhorns over the Gators in the Swamp this Saturday. Now back to the Big 12 for a battle of unbeatens, just as we all expected, talking about Texas Tech and Houston at this point in the year. Texas Tech, less surprisingly so, they're number 11 in the country. They had a great win on the road versus Utah. Backup quarterback had to step in, still played extremely well, but Baron Morton is back, and Baron Morton is the guy. He's a very good quarterback. They're not going to go away from him. However, Houston's been good at forcing turnovers this year. Baron Morton can turn the ball over sometimes. Houston's defense is top 15 in the country. They're an incredibly talented defense, and they've kept a lot of low-scoring games at Houston as well. Sounds like a recipe for an upset. I just think Texas Tech's defense is too much. I don't trust Connor Wegman in this offense to be able to effectively move the ball against this Texas Tech front seven, especially David Bailey, Romello Height. The two transfer portal acquisitions have both been playing outstanding football for the Red Raiders so far this year. I think Texas Tech can keep Wegman in check, keep Tanner Kotsiol in check, and then I think the Texas Tech offense led by Baron Morton is going to be able to push the ball down the field on this Houston team. So I wouldn't think blowout, even though it seems like Houston's a very fraudulent 4-0 right now. Regardless, I think Texas Tech does get this win in a battle of two Texas teams in the Big 12. So Red Raiders to 5-0. Next up, it's Washington versus Malik Washington as they go to take on Maryland this Saturday. Washington coming off the loss to Ohio State. I think they bounce back this weekend. Maryland's extremely talented. They have 8 interceptions, which is tied for second nationally to their defense. I mean, not that they've thrown 8. They lead the nation in sacks with 16, and they're tied for number 1 in turnover margin with Alabama. So, why do I think that Maryland loses this game anyway? I just think the Washington offense is a bit too much. I love Damon Williams at quarterback. I love Denzel Boston, just a huge threat out at receiver. And then Jonah Coleman has been nails from the running back position so far this year. This offense has been scoring with the best of them until they hit Ohio State. And that's less about the Washington offense and more the Ohio State defense is just really darn good this year. So I think the Huskies get the bounce back when they need, traveling across the country at Maryland. However, it's not going to be easy. Malik Washington's been playing good football. I love this defensive front. Sidney Stewart, Zaire Mathis, and Dylan Fontes have all been playing good football this season on the front line for Maryland. I think they continue to do so. I just think that Washington's offense is a bit too much, and I think Maryland, for the first time this season, struggles a bit to create those turnovers, and maybe they fall behind because of that. Give me the Huskies in Maryland to move to 4-1. Next up, Michigan State, Nebraska, sticking with some Big Ten action, which sounds crazy after saying Washington, Maryland. See, even in my head, Maryland is still ACC, so this is completely crazy to me. But Michigan State at Nebraska, I'm taking Nebraska. Michigan State so far this season, they don't turn over the football much. Aiden Childs has only thrown 1 interception and has 9 touchdowns, but they also don't move the ball a ton. 72nd rushing offense, 76th in passing offense, and Nebraska has the best passing defense in the country. They allow less than 80 yards per game through the air, which is absolutely ridiculous. I do think Aiden Childs throws for more than 80 probably on this Nebraska team, but still, at home too, I think this crowd is going to be absolutely bumping. You combine that with the Nebraska offense as 13th in the country. Dylan Raiola also isn't turning over the football this year. 11 touchdowns, just 1 interception. He looks a lot more settled in. You're really going to have to ask him to do it all, though, because this Nebraska team cannot run the football whatsoever. I don't think either of these teams are great at running the football in general. I just think that the Nebraska defense and their passing defense is going to be enough to keep Aiden Childs in check a little bit more. And as much as I like Aiden Childs, I just don't think he has enough for Nebraska in this one. I think Nebraska moves to 4-1 under Matt Rule this year. Huskers get the win on Saturday. Next up, Colorado and TCU. Back over into the Big 12. You guys know how I feel about TCU at this point. I love Josh Hoover. I think he bounces back from the 2-pick game versus what I think is a very, very good Arizona State secondary led by Keith Abney over there. Josh Hoover bounces back in a big way. Colorado is 63rd in passing defense. That number's about to go down. Josh Hoover is going to torch the Buffaloes at home this weekend in Fort Worth. I think TCU kills Colorado. This defense, I think, is going to lock down. I think they have more than enough to get by the Buffaloes this weekend. Colorado has not looked impressive. They lost to BYU last week, who, despite being ranked, I still don't think is a great team. TCU now has a run game with Kavorian Barnes and Trent Battle to help out Josh Hoover, so I think this team is set up for success. I think they improved to 4-1, maybe get re-ranked, which I still think they deserve to be at this point. So TCU over Colorado. Next up is Duke traveling on the road to Cal for a classic ACC showdown. I hate realignment so much, but I think Cal gets this one. I know Duke looked great last week versus Syracuse. They bounced back after the drubbing that Illinois gave them at home. I think this is a very fun quarterback matchup. Darian Mintz is playing better, it seems like, every week. And then Cal has an incredible young freshman in Jaron Kiabe-Sungapulitele. I think he is a great player for the Golden Bears, and I think he's the reason Cal wins this. We've seen what the Cal environment can do at home when they're invested in this team. Cal's 4-1, and the one loss is pretty stupid. They got smacked around by San Diego State. Any given Saturday, I guess. I just think at night, the Cal home crowd, Kiawe-Sungapulitele is going to be playing very well against this Duke defense, which we've seen struggle so far this year against better quarterbacks. I think they're vulnerable once again. Give me Cal to pull the upset on Saturday against the Blue Devils. Then finally, wrapping things up with 3-2 Kansas traveling to Central Florida to take on 3-1 UCF. Wow, I didn't even mean to say. You know what I meant. Scott Frost UCF team hosting Kansas, and I'm taking Kansas. Jalen Daniels is on fire right now, threw for 440 last week against Cincinnati. This is a UCF team that I'm still not completely sold on. They don't have any great wins so far. They're 6th in passing defense, but they haven't played a team that can throw the ball at all so far. So I think despite what we've seen from this UCF team so far, despite their record, I'm also not sold on Taven Jackson. I think Kansas can keep him hemmed in pretty well. So give me the Jayhawks to go on the road, improve to 4-2 on the season so far. And I think Jalen Daniels continues to reestablish himself toward the top of this Big 12 quarterback conversation. But that is it for the Week 6 picks video. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back with the Week 6 recap sometime after games get done, either on Saturday. That video might be up Sunday. Regardless of what happens, it will be out this week. So thank you guys for tuning in once again. If you do like the videos, do make sure to like, subscribe, so you can find out when that next video drops. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time on State of the FBS.